Heolstor the Night Lord is the final boss in Elden Ring Night Reign, and is the coolest thing I've seen since Mesmer. Hi boys, I'm Chris Crass. I beat this guy multiple times solo and with teams, and I'm here to bring you an actually useful boss guide. Make sure to carry holy damage if you can, and let's get straight into it. Starting it off, I want to tell you about the single most important thing in the entire fight, being his 3-piece straight sword combo, consisting of 2 slashes and a poke. This alone is the only thing that appears in every single phase of the fight, so I'll go a little in depth on it. For one, the boss can choose to do any of these 3 attacks at any time he wants, and can decide whether or not the combo continues. For example, he can choose to swing his sword only once, use only the first 2 attacks, or only the last 2. With that said, the order in which the attacks can chain into one another will always be the same, meaning /1 can never combo directly into the poke, as only /2 can do that, and that the poke will never have a follow-up, as it's the final part of the chain. Also, fun fact, he never does the full 3-piece combo until he's unlocked his second sword. I know that this is a lot, but like I said, this shows up in every phase. Moving on, let's flip the switch and talk about a move exclusive to phase 1. This is whenever the boss leans to the side and does this dash attack, which causes him to stumble to the floor immediately after. I recommend rolling backwards on this attack, as it neatly positions you right next to the boss, allowing you to sneak in a few hits while he's down. Don't get too greedy though, cause he might hit you with a surprise backhand. This is basically /2 from the main combo, but uniquely triggers when you're behind the boss. Alright, enough straight sword talk for now, cause once you get to about 70% HP, the boss will then fall to his knees before unsheathing the greatsword off his back and introducing the other 2 most frequent combos. The first of which is his Roaring Flurry, consisting of a dash, 3 slash moves, and a final delayed spin. He does this move almost as much as he does the straight sword combo, so listen up. After he roars, roll into him immediately as you see the crouch to avoid the dash. The next 2 attacks will miss you, giving you enough time to both heal and avoid the 3rd attack. Now this 3rd attack in particular can be punished, but is low-key bait. If your attack is too slow, you will get hit by the follow-up. My advice, if you have a light to medium weapon, you can attempt to dodge into it to sneak in a cheeky rolling attack. If you're wielding a heavier weapon, you might not want to risk it, cause after all, there's 1 attack left. To punish the delayed spin, either roll or jump backwards to the left as the sword spins in a near full circle, perfectly positioning yourself for a punish. The other reoccurring combo he has is the triple spin slide. The first 3 attacks he does will always be the same. However, where this combo can vary is at the very end, following up into either a simple stab or an uppercut into a slow sweep. To punish this, I like rolling backwards on the first 3 hits and adapt depending on the next attack. If it's the stab, simply roll into it and punish. But if it's the other, I try getting behind the boss to strafe the sweep and land a few attacks from there, which can be done by rolling the uppercut or super sprinting if you're further away. Speaking of sweeps though, Heolstor can also do it with his straight sword. Now, he doesn't do it super often, but it can appear at any moment and can combo into the big sweep we previously mentioned. Also, there's a jumping version he can do to close distance. Now, before we talk about phase 2, we all know the boss is weak to holy, but just how weak? Well, according to the spreadsheet, he takes 35% extra damage to holy in phase 1 and 20% in phase 2, on top of the burst damage, stun, and debuff it provides. That debuff in question, lowering the boss's resistances by 5 to 6%, and I think his attack power, for exactly 30 seconds. With everything covered, let's now move on to phase 2. Look at him. He's shiny. From here, every attack except the stumbling dash carries over from phase 1, with the addition of 3 new moves. The first one is his double moonlight stab. The AoE coming from said stab seem to have massive range, but ends super quickly, meaning the direction you roll in doesn't matter and that timing is key. The first stab can easily be dodged as soon as you see him stop reeling his arm backward or during the slight pause. The second one, on the other hand, is delayed and can be a lot more deceiving. If you were like me, your first instinct was to dodge as soon as you see the weapon pointing upwards. This is wrong and you will get roll caught doing so. Instead, delay it ever so slightly until you see the weapon pointing at you, and then roll. Also, since these attacks are so slow, sneaking in a hit or 2 between each of them is fairly consistent. As long as you know what you're doing, of course. Moving on, our second move is the double sword beam into thrust. Unlike the last move, this isn't complicated at all. This move is telegraphed whenever his sword turns on, and he does a little twirl. From there, he'll do 2 sword beams in quick succession before backing up and doing his Omega Thrust. The way I like to dodge this is to roll forward or sideways on the first 2 hits before putting even more distance between me and the boss and rolling backwards on the drill attack, putting me right beside the boss for an easy punish. Now at this point, you'll start to realize that this guy has a lot of dash moves, and that not knowing how to position yourself correctly can massively inflate the length of the fight. But anyway, the final move we have in this phase are the homing spirits. The easiest way to avoid this is to simply super sprint to the side. The timing is also super forgiving. You can even drink a flask before running and still avoid everything. If you'd like to punish this, you can attempt to curve towards the boss while sprinting, or just cancel the move entirely with a damage dealing ult. So far, this is the only move his Rinky Dinky Dagger does, but who knows, maybe when the boss gets enhanced, we'll see more of it. With all that said, let's move on to his empowered state. This occurs whenever Heolstor reaches around 70% HP, where he'll then rise into the air and split the sky in half. Now, you'll notice that the color of the sky won't always be the same, and that's because this move has 7 different variations, each representing the 7 Night Lords that came before, and will dictate which damage type or status effect the boss will be empowered with. Anyways, let's dial it back a bit and talk about that subsequent slam. This thing seems to have the same properties as the stat from earlier, having a super fast hitbox, but being delayed as hell. When dodging this move, don't roll as soon as you see the boss descend from the sky. That'll get you hit. Instead, try to time it when Heolstor accelerates midway through the drop. If you struggle with this move in particular, I recommend not looking at the boss at all and locking your eyes to the middle of the screen. And click the button as soon as you see a Heolstor-shaped blob pass through this imaginary line I've placed on screen. This might sound a bit weird, but this is how I personally learned how to dodge it. You can also jump it, but the timing is a bit precise. On another note, if you happen to be further away from the boss when this happens, I want you to pay attention to the in-game audio and roll as soon as you hear this sound. Here's an instant replay. Also, yes, I know the boss has a pocket you can enter if you position yourself correctly, but in my personal opinion, since the AoE doesn't have a lingering hitbox, it's simply more consistent to just dodge the attack. Alright, now let's talk about this phase's general moveset. And I'm not gonna lie, besides the straight sword combos now having after effects and the random explosions going off in the distance, he actually doesn't gain any new moves until the very end. If anything, he can't use the 3 moonlight moves from the previous phase, sort of turning it into phase 1, but RGB. That said, these cracks is what I'm gonna call it, will now accompany every single attack the boss does, except the entirety of the Roaring Flurry and the first 3 hits of the triple spin slide. For this reason, rolling backwards is now pretty unsafe, and that it's generally best to hug the boss while constantly strafing right to make sure you don't get clipped by the cracks. With all that said, after about 50 seconds to a minute of being in the empowered state, the boss will finish off with a climactic 6-piece combo, where he'll do 2 double slashes, a scoop into the air, and a mega slam. Now, you could just dodge this normally, however, since the sword hitboxes are a lot smaller than it looks, you can almost strafe the entire thing by running to the right on the first 2 hits, running to the left on the next 2, and right again for the scoop, with the slam being the only thing you have to roll, which is almost exactly the same as the slam at the beginning of the phase. Heck, you could even try punishing the guy mid-combo, though I don't recommend that. Also, if you're outside of the Ring of Fire, time your rolls immediately after every second sword swing to dodge the surrounding cracks. But anyways, this returns the boss back to phase 2, and as long as he's alive, he'll switch back and forth between the 2 phases every minute. 1 minute of phase 2, then 1 minute of empowered, and repeat. Also, one last thing to mention, you can parry almost every straight sword move, empowered or not. And honestly, it's pretty worth it. It takes 3 parries to riposte, but stuns the boss for so long, you can sneak in a few hits every parry for some free damage on top of the riposte. And yeah, that's the Heolstor guide done. If this video helped you out, make sure to let me know by liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Share this with anyone who might be struggling with Heolstor, and I hope you have a great day. Also, here's the full fight for anyone who wants it. Sup? Hell yeah, brother. What? Okay, bro. Okay, bro. I had like a perfect face one. Amazing start. Yeah. Alright, bro. Woo! That's a lucky stagger. That's actually a lucky stagger. Whoopsie. Dramatic finish. Honestly, I'm quite happy about that. Kind of sucks that I got hit like 3 times at the beginning of phase 2, but you know what? Pretty good fight. I'll take it.